As Barack Obama once said, and what we have seen, climate change is no longer some far off problem. It is happening here and it's happening now. Good evening and namaste to one and all present here. I am President Sharatham Kotel for the FSZ Club and the Learning Society's coordinator at Triyog High School. Welcome to Countdown, where people from all around the globe gather to learn and understand the ways to save our planet and make it better. Today, we gather here to explore and understand initiatives, ask and answer questions, which are all aiming to save the planet. We don't need to get long, hard explanations about climate change and environmental degradation, because by now, you have probably heard about it or seen it or experienced it. The earth is getting warmer. There are wildfires everywhere. The animals are disappearing. The glaciers are melting. There are floods everywhere. The rivers are drying. All the trash that is around. The ratios of trees to houses in Kathmandu roughly being 1 to 100. All of this is climate change and environmental degradation. Climate change is a global crisis, with the entire world affected and all the countries scurrying to make change and prevent the 2-degree rise before 2030. This topic is not to be taken lightly. It is not a hoax. We have all the solutions we need, but we need to get serious in implementing them. Science has never been so rich in data and conclusive as it is today, but somehow we choose to ignore the research and carry on killing the planet unbothered by the fact that the Earth is on its way to doom. Countdown, a global online initiative which has brought environmentalists, economists, and all passionate about environment together to champion and accelerate solutions to climate crisis, turning ideas into actions, sharing our own values and initiatives that make change, educating each other in these patterns, becoming a part of community of changemakers committed to creating a better future. Let's start with the thought, we can change climate change. With that, welcome to Countdown. For the second edition of TEDxTRIYOGH High School, conferred by Friends of the Zoo Club, we gather here to discuss our perspectives on the topic, local actions to combating climate change, under the TED Circle's theme, Reflections for the month of December. We have added 2 new subtopics to the theme, being, how can children be made more aware about the mitigation measures and use them in practice? How can schools be more responsive and helpful to climate change? This is all under the broad umbrella of TED Circle's December theme, Reflections. Before we move ahead with the event, I'd like to introduce 2 new members of FSZ. The first member is Sonakshi Shrestha. Sonakshi is the school captain at Triyog High School and the vice president of Triyog FSZ Club, who is the MC of the event. Before Sonakshi takes over, I'd like to request Tuti Thapa, the executive member of the FSZ Club, to introduce the club.
The Friends of the Zoo, FOZ, is a network of over 200 schools that has been effectively teaching members to be aware of the present scenario of wildlife in Nepal and inculcate the sense of responsibilities for their environment in them. Run by the Central Zoo, FOZ conducts a number of programs which engage the members of FOZ related to conservation, wildlife protection, and awareness of FOZ Club at Triyog spread awareness for animals, environmental protection for the last 30 years.
Checkmaster, can you kindly unmute Stuti Thapa?
The Friends of the Zoo, FOZ, is a network of over 200 schools that has been effectively teaching members to be aware of the present scenario of wildlife in Nepal and inculcate the sense of responsibilities for the environment in them. Run by the Central Zoo, FOZ conducts a number of programs which engage the members of FOZ in various activities relating to environment conservation, wildlife protection, and awareness of nature. FOZ at Triyog has been actively working to spread awareness for animals and environmental protection for the last 13 years and will continue to do so in the future.
Thank you, Stuti. Now, I would like to introduce Manasha Wagle from the Gavel Club at Triyog High School, who will be the timer of the event. Today, we have with us 6 wonderful and passionate environmentalists, changemakers, educators, representing various organizations working actively in Nepal and around the globe, all gathered here to share their perspectives on the theme, Local Actions to Combating Climate Change. I would like to request the tech master to display the speakers lineup. Let's give our esteemed speakers a virtual round of applause. Our first speaker for the evening is Ms. Rachana Shah, Project Chief at National Trust for Nature Conservation, NTNC. Ms. Rachana Shah is an education officer affiliated with NTNC. She has been in this field for the last 13 years. She has worked as the curator from 2013 to 2021 and is associated with animal management and welfare. May I request the timer to state the time conventions?
Thank you. Ms. Rachana Shah will have 3 to 4 minutes to give her speech. At 3 minutes, I will display the green card. At 3 minutes and 30 seconds, I will display the yellow card, and at 4 minutes, I will display the red card. She will have 30 seconds to 1 minute to complete her speech. Thank you, and over to you.
The stage is now open for you, Ms. Shah.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, FOZ team. I think Stuti has highlighted more on the Friends of the Zoo programs and what the Central Zoo has been doing. I just want to highlight the activities and what we are doing in near future and what we have been doing recently. As you all know, she is aware that we have a networking with more than 200 schools earlier, but now this group has raised to 500. So now we have networking with more than 500 schools in Kathmandu, Lalitpur, and Bhaktapur. And then we have more than 100,000 registered members so far since its inception in 1997. The objective of National Trust for Nature Conservation in taking up the zoo was to pioneer it in conservation education and animal management. So as said, we are working in creating awareness about environment education. So although the zoo has successfully introduced its member school to gain knowledge and act on local environment and conservation challenges, it is now taking an active step to give its education program a global direction. So in the current climate of environmental calamities, environmental education and sustainable practices have been emerging as an important trend in the 21st century school education. So taking this on board, Central Zoo, through its Friends of the Zoo network of schools, is now taking active steps to give its educational program a global direction and by partnering with international schools abroad. So spearheading this international collaboration with the Friends of the Zoo school members is Dwight School UK, an international school with sister school in USA, Shanghai, and Dubai. And through this program, we initiated a sustainable environment project. And I think one of the Triyog school students also got chance to go to UK and learn about the environmental issues there and share the knowledge about the environmental issues out here in Nepal. So by providing international collaboration through the exchange of innovative ideas in the promotion of sustainable development issues, students are being given roles and responsibilities to become member of a global community. So we here at the zoo try to encourage future leaders of Nepal to act locally and think globally. The international collaboration aims to exchange innovation.
Looking in this direction, this right angle is actually defined as the position from which, if you want.
Shall I continue? In the promotion of sustainable environment issues. so that students understands the context of their local lives and develop skills that will enable them to be informed adults who will remain conserve their environments. So now the second phase of this project has highlighted on the plantation of more than 2,000 saplings in and around Kathmandu Valley. So with this, we have incepted a project, Twinning the Tree, which has been initiated where Dwight School London has already planted 900 trees and will soon reach its 1,000 mark by March 2022. Similarly, here in Nepal, we have also planted 1,000 saplings in the buffer zone area of Shivapuri, Nagarjun and Chitwan National Park. So I would like to request Triyog high schools and other members to join us in this Twinning the Tree project. So it's a global project. So without much delay, I would like to invite you all. And also, I would like to highlight that during the pandemic, during the lockdown also, the Triyog, likewise other FOZ Eco Club members, they had conducted many programs like planting a tree, a single pot plant in a house, managing waste. So I would like to thank Sharad, his team for initiating such a program. And last but not the least, I would like to thank Niladhari sir for initiating this kind of program, encouraging and involving young youth in such a good deed of saving our environment. I would like to wish FOZ Eco Club of Triyog schools for initiating such programs, and I hope to see much enthusiasm, much focus on the environment and other issues related with the conservation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your well wishes. I'm sure we're all very grateful for all the initiatives NTNC has taken for the environment. If anyone has any questions for any of the speakers today, please do drop them off in the chat box as we go. We will be selecting a few questions to be asked from the chat after all the presentations are over. The next speaker of the evening is Ms. Sanjivani Yonzhin Shrestha, Conservationist and Director at Wildlife Conservation Nepal, WCN. Her career spans a little over 20 years as a conservationist, educator, writer, and a humanitarian responder. Ms. Yonzhin is especially committed to engaging communities and people from all walks of life in nature, conservation, and to transform the way environmental education is taught in Nepal. May I request the timer to state the time conventions?
Thank you. Ms. Sanjivani Yonzhin will have 8 to 10 minutes to give her speech. At 8 minutes, I will display the green card. At 9 minutes, I will display the yellow card. And at 10 minutes, I will display the red card. She will have additional 30 seconds to 1 minute to complete her speech. Thank you, and over to you.
The floor is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. This evening's MC, the timer, Rachana ma'am, Niladhari sir, and everybody here. A warm greeting on a cold evening today. I have a very short address today, and I just would like to focus on this special time that we are all experiencing together as a common species around the world, around the globe, that we are simultaneously facing this huge pandemic, which is a challenge for the entire humanity. And I believe this time is for reflection, introspection, healing, and moving forward. Because this time is a precious time where we have to pause and think what is important for us, how nature is of paramount importance in order to live a well-rounded, well-being of our species, and how prevalent we were as a species as well. So I feel like this time is a precious time, and all of us have had a wonderful, actually, an introspective moment here as a race. My program, Nepal Prakriti Pathshala at WCN, is focused on spreading this nature connect throughout the country. We work with children, as you all know. Triyog School is a dear, dear partner, and we've had such amazing participation from the students of Triyog over the years. It's been more than 6 years, I think, where Triyog participated in all our environmental education programs. Nepal Prakriti Pashala is focused on making these nature connections for children like yourselves, students like yourselves from early on, so that we can live a fulfilled life as a part of nature, as one with nature and not apart from it. If we understand this nature connect, I think most of the environmental problems around the world will be solved. And like the first person, the speaker who opened the program today said, everyone knows climate change is here. I think the evidence is overwhelming, but still it's a huge, huge challenge because all of us think that we are not a part of the solution. So this is what we are trying to change with Nepal Prakriti Pathshala, trying to bring home the message that Prakriti can be a Pathshala, which means Prakriti can be a school in itself. And if we find school in nature, most of the problems is solved. However, the biggest challenge is that most of the students, all you want to do is this. And this is a huge problem because what we were imagining are children like this. What we want our children to do is be happy in nature, you know, taking care of nature, planting trees. But all of us, like parents, teachers alike, we find that most of our children are like enjoying their time. They are so engrossed with their gadgets, especially after the pandemic, which is an ironical thing. This is what is happening. And we don't want you to grow up to be adults like these. So the message from me to you would be, get off your phone, get disconnected to get connected with nature. I think this is like the most important step that we as a humanity, like a part of humanity, can do. And an American writer and a researcher, Richard Louv, has said, like, has actually proven that when you are so disconnected with nature, we get a disorder called nature deficit disorder, or NDD. So this is something that we have to be scared of. So this is the most important message from me to you, because we all are part of nature, and subconsciously all of us are craving to be in connection with nature. For example, if I ask you today, like, okay, let's go for a picnic, of course you think about a place which is full of nature, right? So I feel like subconsciously all of us understand that this is very, very important. Nature is very, very important. And nature, for now, like now it's nearly proven that like nature is a very important element in our lives, and we can even call it vitamin N. And this is what we crave for, and this is what we should get, like all the time. This would be my message to you. Because when we look at the global climate change, we feel like the snail walking to, not walking, but climbing Mount Everest, because all of us feel so small because the problem is so big. And the solution seems so scientific and complex, but it is not so. This is a problem that we created. This problem can be overcome by us. Each of us can make a difference, and that is what is most important to think about. Lastly, what I would like to share with you is this is how we are advocating environmental education should be. And this illustration over here is mainly for the adults. What we want to tell, what we want to share to the world is like, we are focusing too much on our education system is focusing too much on nature, too much on knowledge. And what we are missing is the experience part. So if we want to have children who will say, off I go to change the world, we have to start with providing them with opportunities in nature so that they can experience the wonder of it all. So that also means that we have to get off our gadgets and connect with nature. And that's where we should actually base our imparting knowledge should be based on. So most of us agree that the education sector focuses too much on knowledge, and then we expect the understanding and the positive behavior to come easily. But it is always not true, because we have to start with the experiences in nature. And this allows the children to do the right thing, even when no one is looking. So I feel like the more time you spend on things that you are actually doing it than reading about it, this is where change happens. Even for yourself, when you want something like to become a habit, then you have to practice it every single day. The consistency of doing it over and over again is the key to all successes. So this is how we will reach, like if we spend enough focus on the experience part. And most importantly, we should stop saying, save the planet. Who are we to save the planet? This amazing planet is here, glorious in itself, but it's us who needs to save ourselves. So I think we should start saying, let's save ourselves, rather than saying, save the planet Earth, and doing our bit, because each of us is making difficult for ourselves and for people of our own race. So I want all the students here to actually commit to yourself, not to us. Even when Niladri sir is not watching, even your teachers are not watching, I want you to commit to yourself to do the right thing. You know what the right things are. You've read about it, you've written about it, but now you have to do it even when no one is watching. And that is the promise that we need to make to ourselves and commit ourselves to. And with this, I come to the end of my little address. I would like to thank you. I'm excited as this wonderful frog over here. And what I would like to tell you is this is what we are trying to do, hand over this message for our younger generation, that we need to take care of our earth from today and our race. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm sure we're all as excited as that little frog. We're always marveled by your innovative and inspiring ideas, all for creating that true and special bond with nature. Moving ahead, our third speaker of the day is Miss Maya Gurung. Miss Maya Gurung is a mountaineer who climbed Sagarmatha, Mount Everest, in 2008 and followed on to join the 7 Summits Women's Team, which became the first female team to climb the highest summit in all 7 continents. Wow. Miss Maya Gurung is actively leading initiatives to support education, women empowerment, and tourism promotion, with a particular focus on Sindh Baltok district. Currently, she's leading projects to train young female survivors of trafficking to help them become trekking guides and to rebuild earthquake-destroyed schools. She is the founder of Everest Women Treks and Expedition Private Limited, a professional mountain guide, a freelance motivational speaker, alongside being a mountain activist. May I request the timer to specify the time conventions?
Thank you. Ms. Maya Gurung will have 8 to 10 minutes to give her speech. At 8 minutes, I will display the green card. At 9 minutes, I will display the yellow card. And at 10 minutes, I will display the red card. She will have 30 seconds to 1 minute to wrap up her speech. Thank you, and over to you.
Sorry for a few minutes. I can see my, wait for.
While Ms. Maya Gurung is getting ready to present her slide, I just wanted to thank Rachna ma'am for being so supportive, and the Central Zoo and National Trust for Nature Conservation for being so supportive over the years. You've inspired us to do more with the FOZ Club. And what great news, 500 schools all over Nepal now connected to this wonderful network. And thousands of school children all over Nepal doing their bit to keep this momentum running. Sanjivani ma'am, always inspired to work with you. The wonderful work she's been in this sector, educating and conserving and preaching about nature conservation for almost 2 decades now, and still growing strong. So happy to have all of you here with us. Mayaji, are you ready? Are you experiencing some difficulties? Can we be of any help?
Niladiji, everyone, namaste. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah. Hello.
Yes. Can you see my presentation? Yes. Wait.
As Mayaji is getting started, may I request our tech masters and Sharad Jamkatil to kindly enable multiple screen sharing by multiple participants. I believe the timer is not being able to show our time cards. Thank you.
Niladiji, can you see my presentation? Hello?
I cannot, Mayaji.
I'm trying to.
Mayaji, is it okay? Let us get you sorted. Can we move on to the next speaker while you get ready?
Yeah, sure, please.
Let's do that. Sonakshi?
We'll come back to Mayaji's presentation a little bit later. Up next, we have Mr. Raju Acharya. Mr. Acharya, commonly known as Owl Sir, is an owl specialist based in Pokhara. He currently holds the post of Executive Director at Friends of Nature, FON. Mr. Acharya has been involved in participatory wildlife research and conservation in Nepal for the last 25 years and has been an owl specialist for more than 14 years. May I request the timer to state the time conventions?
Thank you. Mr. Raju Acharya will have 13 to 15 minutes to give his speech. At 13 minutes, I will display the green card. At 14 minutes, I will display the yellow card. And at 15 minutes, I will display the red card. He will have additional 30 seconds to 1 minute to complete his speech. Thank you, and over to you.
I'd like to request Mr. Raju Acharya to get on with his presentation.
मैले बोलेको सुन्नुहुन्छ पावर पोइन्ट देख्नु भएको छ
हजुर सर
ओके सबैलाई धन्यवाद खुसी लाग्यो पहिलोचोटी म चाहिँ यसरी काठमाडौँमा प्रेजेन्ट गर्दैछु म चाहिँ प्राय गाउँघरतिर डुलेर प्रेजेन्ट गर्ने मान्छे हो म तपाईलाई आज एउटा चराको बारेमा चाहिँ कस्तो काम भएको छ भन्ने बारेमा चाहिँ प्रेजेन्ट गर्छु मेरो ओके स्लाइड किन चेन्ज भएन स्लाइड चेन्ज भएको छैन है
हजुर सर भएको छैन
के भयो स्लाइड नै मुभ गरेन त
Sharad, if Rajuji is having a problem sharing the slides, can we do it from our end?
या हुन्छ
Yes, sir, we can.
Please.
स्लाइड नै चेन्ज भएन यहाँ
Sure, Rajuji, we'll try and do it from our end. Thank you. Rajuji, हजुर सुरु गर्दा हुन्छ
हुन्छ नेक्स्ट स्लाइड तपाईलाई स्वागत छ यो प्रेजेन्टेसनमा म चाहिँ आज तपाईहरुले चाहिँ कतिको सुन्नु भएको छ लाटोको सुरु अंग्रेजीमा भन्दाखेरि आउल आउलेट भन्छ नेपालीमा भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ लाटोको सुरु हुचिल हाप्सुलु बुन्द्रुक भनेर विभिन्न नामले चिनिन्छ त समग्रमा हामी आउल भन्छौं त्यसको बारेमा म चाहिँ तपाईहरुसँग कुरा गर्ने छु नेक्स्ट नेपालमा चराको कुरा गर्दाखेरि विशेष गरेर चाहिँ 887 प्रजातिको चराहरू रिकभर भएको छ त्यसमध्ये 23 प्रजातिको लाटोकोसेरोहरू छ यो चराको हिसाबले हेर्ने नेपाल चाहिँ ग्लोबली नै करिब करिब 8% चराहरू संसारभरि पाउने चराहरू नेपालमा पाउँछ र आउलको कुरा गरे भने चाहिँ करिब करिब 10% संसारभरि करिब 230 प्लस चराहरू छ त्यो हिसाबले 10 प्लस जति नेपालमा पाउँछ 10% जति र नेपालमा पाउने सबै खालको लाटोकोसेरोहरू सबै खालको उल्लुहरू जसलाई कसैले उल्लु पनि भन्नुहुन्छ त्यो चाहिँ नेपालमा पाउने मध्ये 8वटा चाहिँ अलिकति दुर्लभ भनेर मानिएको छ यद्यपि ग्लोबली हेर्ने हो भने चाहिँ नेपालमा पाउने लाटोकोसेरोहरू चाहिँ त्यस्तो खालको दुर्लभ छैन दुर्लभ भनेको तपाईहरुले बुझ्दाखेरि कसरी बुझ्नुस् भने जुन चराको चाहिँ के भन्छ अवस्था नाजुक छ जसलाई चुनौती बढी छ त्यस्तो खालको चराहरूलाई चाहिँ दुर्लभ भनेर सरकारले क्याटेगोराइज गरेको हुन्छ र नेपालमा पाउने लाटोकोसेरो मध्ये 8 प्रजातिलाई चाहिँ नेपाल सरकारले दुर्लभ भनेको छ र आइयुसिएन को हेर्दाखेरि लिस्ट कन्सर्न भन्छ लिस्ट कन्सर्न भनेको अलिकति चासो कम भएको यसलाई खासै त्यति वास्ता गर्नु पर्दैन भन्ने अर्थमा चाहिँ लिन सकिन्छ नेक्स्ट अब यहाँ तपाईले फोटोमा हेर्न सक्नुहुन्छ यसमा चाहिँ तपाईले फोटोमा देखेको सबै लाटोकोसेरोहरू नेपालमा चाहिँ पाउँछ एलन ह्यारिसले इलस्ट्रेट गर्नुभयो हो यो चाहिँ आउल्स अफ नेपाल भन्ने एउटा किताब पनि छ अनलाइनमा छ तपाईले चाहिँ फ्रेन्ड्स अफ नेचरको वेबसाइटमा जानुभयो भने किताब नै डाउनलोड गरेर हेर्न पाउनुहुन्छ त्यहाँ दुईटा किताब छ आउलको तपाईले डाउनलोड गर्न मन लाग्यो भने चाहिँ त्यहाँ गएर पनि डिटेलमा हेर्न सक्नुहुन्छ नेक्स्ट अब मैले अलिकति चराको बारेमा कुरा गर्दाखेरि कतिपय मान्छेले यसलाई चरा नै मान्दैन 2008 र 9 मा चाहिँ मनाङ र मुस्ताङमा गरिएको एउटा अध्ययनले त्यहाँको 3% मान्छेहरूले चाहिँ यो चरा होइन यो भूत प्रेत हो यो अर्कै चिज हो भनेर भनेको थियो तर वास्तवमा यो चरा नै हो यिनीहरू चाहिँ यो बिहानको समय र बेलुकाको समयमा चाहिँ बढी एक्टिभ हुन्छ दिउँसो चाहिँ एकदमै कम एक्टिभ हुन्छ विशेष गरेर यसको चाहिँ के हुन्छ आँखाको साइज बढी र साइज बढी हुँदाखेरि लाइट बढी छिर्ने र यसको आँखाको पछाडि चाहिँ एउटा रड सेल भन्ने हुन्छ त्यो रड सेलको काम भनेको चाहिँ लो लाइट सेन्सिटिभिटी भन्छ कम प्रकाशमा पनि राम्रोसँग देखाइदिन्छ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि त्यसको चाहिँ एउटा क्षमता नै हुन्छ, रड सेलको क्षमता। र अर्को चाहिँ यसको आँखा ठुलो हुने भयो शरीरको तुलनामा, त्यसले गर्दा यसले दिउँसो चाहिँ राम्रोसँग देख्न नसक्ने हो। त्यसले गर्दा यिनीहरू चाहिँ प्रायः गरेर बिहान र बेलुका चाहिँ एक्टिभ हुन्छ र यिनीहरू चाहिँ एकदमै अरूलाई शिकार गर्ने चरा हो, हन्टर हो। यिनीहरू चाहिँ बर्ड्स अफ प्रे पनि भन्छौँ हामीले चाहिँ। यसले अरूलाई मार्छ र संसारभरि पाउने लाटोकोसेरो मध्ये एउटा एल्फा आउल भन्ने हुन्छ जुन नेपालमा पाउँदैन, त्यसले चाहिँ फलफुल खान्छ, नत्र अरू सबैले मासु खान्छ। यिनीहरू कार्निभोर, यिनीहरू मांसाहारी हो। यिनीहरूले चाहिँ अरू चरालाई, अरू जनावरलाई मारेर चाहिँ खाने गर्छ। र यिनीहरू चाहिँ उड्दाखेरि जस्तो अरू परेवाहरू, गिद्धहरू, अरू चराहरू, भँगेराहरू हाम्रो छेउबाट उड्यो भने हामी जसरी आवाज सुन्न सक्छौँ, तर यसको चाहिँ के हुन्छ भने हामीले चाहिँ आवाज सुन्न चाहिँ सक्दैनौँ। यसको फ्लाइट चाहिँ एकदमै साउन्डलेस फ्लाइट हुन्छ, जसले गर्दाखेरि यिनीहरूलाई रातिको समयमा चाहिँ अरू आफ्नो प्रेहरू खोज्नको लागि चाहिँ सजिलो हुन्छ। तपाईँ हामीले चाहिँ आफ्नो टाउकोलाई वान साइडमा, एउटा दिशामा 90 डिग्री भन्दा बढी घुमाउन सक्दैनौँ। अब कसैको अलिकति बढी फ्लेक्सिबल भएर 95-100सम्म पुग्ला, त्यो आफ्नो ठाउँमा छ। हामीले एक साइडमा चाहिँ 90 डिग्री भन्दा घुमाउन सक्दैनौँ, तर यसले चाहिँ एक साइडमै 270 डिग्रीसम्म चाहिँ रोटेट गर्न सक्छ। यिनीहरूले चाहिँ यो रोटेट हुनुको कारण भनेको यसले आँखालाई चाहिँ यसको मुभ हुँदैन, आँखा फिक्स हुन्छ यसको चाहिँ। त्यसले गर्दा यसको चाहिँ इभोल्युसनको क्रममा चाहिँ यसले टाउकोलाई मुभ गर्दा गर्दा यसको टाउको चाहिँ बढी चाहिँ रोटेट भएको हो। र यसको तपाईँले यो फोटोमा हेर्न सक्नुहुन्छ, यो तलपट्टि फोटोमा देब्रे साइडमा, लेफ्ट साइडमा आँखामा निलो निलो परेला छ। तपाईँको परेला पनि अब यहाँ अलिकति कम्युनिकेट गर्न नमिल्ने भयो। तपाईँको आँखामा दुईवटा परेला छ, एउटा तल छ, एउटा माथि छ। तर यो चराको परेला चाहिँ 3टा हुन्छ। त्यो निलो देखेको पनि एउटा परेला हो। यसले चाहिँ आँखामा चाहिने मोइस्चर कन्टेन्टलाई आँखा वरिपरि, आँखाको पुरै भागमा चाहिँ पुर्याउने काम गर्छ। र यो यसको इन्ट्रेस्टिङ यसको फिचर हो यो। र अर्को भनेको यिनीहरूले चाहिँ तपाईँले त्यो फोटोको तलपट्टिको राइट साइडमा देख्न सक्नुहुन्छ, त्यो आउलले सिँगै सर्पलाई खाँदैछ। यिनीहरूले प्रायः चाहिँ सबै आफ्नो आहारालाई सिँगै खाने गर्छ र सिँगै खाएपछि पेटभित्र गएपछि हड्डीहरू, छालाहरू, रौँहरू जसले पचाउन सक्दैन त्यसलाई डल्लो बनाएर चाहिँ मुखबाट फाल्छ। तपाईँले माथिको चित्रमा एउटा चाहिँ लाटोकोसेरो देख्नु भएको छ, जुन चाहिँ तपाईँको स्कुलको छेउमा पनि पाउँछ, काठमाडौँ भ्यालीमा पनि पाउँछ, सायद तपाईँको घर वरिपरि तपाईँले पनि देख्नुभयो होला। बार्नावल भन्छ गोटे लाटोकोसेरो। त्यो एउटा कालो डल्लो फाल्दैछ। त्यो चाहिँ नपचेको चिजहरू यसले चाहिँ मुखबाट फ्याँक्छ, जसलाई हामीले चाहिँ अङ्ग्रेजीमा प्यालेट पनि भन्छौँ। विदेशतिर चाहिँ यो प्राइमेरीदेखि लिएर मावि स्तरको विद्यार्थीहरूले चाहिँ यो प्यालेटलाई कलेक्ट गरेर ल्याएर स्कुलमा चाहिँ शुक्रबार शनिबार उनीहरूले चाहिँ प्रोग्राम हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ त्यसले के खाएको रहेछ, त्यसको फुडमा के मेटेरियल रहेछ भनेर रिसर्च पनि गर्ने गर्छन्। नेक्स्ट, मैले अलिकति तपाईँलाई यसको बारेमा थोरै कस्तो खालको हुन्छ भनेर चाहिँ जानकारी गराएँ। अब यसको नेपालमा रिसर्चको कुरा गर्दाखेरि, कन्जर्भेसनको कुरा गर्दाखेरि लाटोकोसेरोसँग जोडिएका धेरै इस्युहरू छ। जस्तो तपाईँहरूले पनि आफ्नो साथीको सर्कलमा कसैलाई गाली गर्नु पऱ्यो भने उल्लु जस्तो, है त त उल्लु रहेछस् भनेर भनेको सुन्नुहुन्छ। मुभीहरूमा हेर्नुभयो भने पनि हिन्दी मुभीहरूमा चाहिँ उल्लु भनेर गाली गरेको देखिन्छ। यसले गर्दाखेरि हाम्रो समाजमा चाहिँ अलिकति अल्छी मान्छेहरूलाई, अनलक्की मान्छेहरूलाई पनि उल्लुको संज्ञा दिन्छ। र त्यस्तो खालको लाटोकोसेरो छेउमा आएर बसे पनि लखेट्ने चलन छ। यसले गर्दाखेरि यसको रिसर्च र कन्जर्भेसनमा चाहिँ असर गरेको छ। अर्को भनेको हामीले नेपालको धेरै ठाउँमा तराईदेखि लिएर मिडिलसम्म चाहिँ रिसर्च गर्दाखेरि अब काठमाडौँ भ्यालीको विद्यार्थीहरूलाई चाहिँ यो सम्भव छैन। बिहान घरबाट बसमा चढ्यो, स्कुल गयो, स्कुलमा पढेर आयो, फेरि बसबाट झऱ्यो। अब हदै भयो भने हप्तामा एकचोटि आउटिङ होला अथवा के होला। तर अरू ठाउँको विद्यार्थीहरू चाहिँ जुन चाहिँ जङ्गलसँग जोडिएको पहाडतिरको, तराईतिरको विद्यार्थीहरूले चाहिँ 25% विद्यार्थीहरूले गुलेली प्रयोग गर्ने, स्ल्याङ सट अथवा क्याटापुल्ट पनि भन्छौँ हामीलाई, त्यो गुलेली प्रयोग गरेको भेटिएको छ। त्यसमध्ये उनीहरूको आफ्नो लाइफमा चाहिँ उनीहरूले 3%ले चाहिँ लाटोकोसेरोलाई मारेको र घाइते बनाएको भेटेका छौँ। नेक्स्ट, यो पनि एउटा थ्रेट हो। नेक्स्ट प्लिज। र त्यस्तै गरेर चाहिँ यसको शिकार पनि हुन्छ। मान्छेले मासुको लागि र विभिन्न अरू प्रयोजनको लागि यसलाई मार्ने गर्छन्, रमाइलोको लागि मार्ने हुन्छ। र यसको चाहिँ अरू तपाईँको गैँडाको खाग, हात्तीको दाराहरू बिक्री भए जस्तै लाटोकोसेरोको पनि व्यापार हुने गरेको छ। त्यसले पनि यसको रिसर्च कन्जर्भेसनमा चाहिँ निकै असर गरेको छ। नेक्स्ट, मेरो यो पावर पोइन्ट वास्तवमा चाहिँ 1 घन्टाभन्दा बढीको हो, त्यही भएर मैले 15 मिनटमा भ्याउनु पर्ने भएकोले म अलिकति तपाईँलाई सर्ट गरिरहेको छु। र सरकारको तर्फबाट पनि यो अरू स्पेसिस जस्तो गैँडा बाघ हिउँ चितुवालाई जति प्रायोरिटी दिएको छ त्यति प्रायोरिटी यसले पाएको छैन र नेपालमा चाहिँ करिब 200 वर्षको इतिहास भयो चराहरूको बारेमा अध्ययन भएको के पाइन्छ कहाँ पाइन्छ भन्ने छ तर कुन अवस्थामा छ त्यसको पपुलेसन कति छ भन्ने खालको चाहिँ अध्ययनहरू भएको छैन र आउलको पनि भएको छैन नेक्स्ट र यो हेबिटेट डिस्ट्रक्सनको कुरो मैले गरिरहनु पर्दैन तपाईहरु चाहिँ फ्रेन्ड्स अफ जूसँग पनि आबद्ध हुनुहुन्छ धेरै पटक सायद कुरा पनि भयो होला यिनीहरू चाहिँ यिनीहरूको गुण चाहिँ जंगलमा हुन्छ घाँसे मैदानमा हुन्छ पहरामा हुन्छ त्यस्तो ठाउँमाहरू चाहिँ आगो लाग्दाखेरि यिनीहरूलाई चाहिँ चुनौती बढेको छ त्यस्तै गरेर लाटोकोसेरोले चाहिँ किरा फट्याङ्ग्रा मुसा भ्याकुता सर्प छुचुन्द्रोहरू खान्छ ती प्राणीहरूले पनि अरू साना प्राणीहरूलाई खान्छन् त्यसरी खाँदाखेरि चाहिँ पेस्टिसाइडको असर चाहिँ एउटा प्राणीबाट अर्को प्राणीमा सर्दै गएर चाहिँ त्यसलाई हामीले चाहिँ बायो ट्रान्सफर्मेसन भन्छौँ टेक्निकल टर्ममा चाहिँ एउटा कुनै शरीरमा चाहिँ केमिकलहरू अथवा पेस्टिसाइड जम्मा हुनेलाई चाहिँ बायो एकुमुलेसन भनिन्छ त्यो चाहिँ त्यसलाई अर्कोले खाँदाखेरि फुड चेनमा चाहिँ एउटा स्पेसिसबाट अर्को स्पेसिसमा सर्ने क्रमलाई चाहिँ बायो ट्रान्सफर्मेसन भन्छौँ यसरी जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ लाटोकोसेरोहरू मर्ने घाइते हुने र अयोग्य हुने ब्रिडिङको लागि हुने गर्छ र यो एकदमै सुपरस्टिसन पनि धेरै छ जस्तो लाटोकोसेरोको हड्डी को माला लगायो भने भूत प्रेत तर्साउँदैन भन्ने अथवा लाटोकोसेरोलाई झुन्ड्याइदियो घरमा ल्याएर भने त्यो घरमा चाहिँ बक्सीहरू छिर्दैन भन्ने यस्तो खालको यो बिलिभहरू हाम्रो सोसाइटीमा चाहिँ थुप्रै छ तपाईहरुले पनि सुन्यो होला घरमा माथि छाना मारेर लाटोकोसेरो गरायो भने त्यो गाउँमा अथवा त्यो घरमा कोही बिरामी हुन्छ भन्ने खालको अझै पनि नेपाली समाजमा चाहिँ त्यो व्याप्त छ नेक्स्ट र त्यस्तै गरेर चाहिँ जो मान्छेहरू लाटोकोसेरोको अथवा वाइल्ड लाइफमा काम गरिरहेको छ वास्तवमा तिनलाई पनि आउलको बारेमा चाहिँ असाध्यै कम नलेज छ किनभने आजभोलि चाहिँ सबैले ठुलो स्पेसिस र अलिकति जुन स्पेसिसमा फन्डिङ सजिलैसँग जुट्छ त्यसमा बढी काम गर्ने भएको हुनाले आउलप्रति चाहिँ आउलकै संरक्षणमा लाग्नेहरूलाई पनि नलेज एकदमै कम भएको भेटेका छौँ हामीले त्यसपछि रिसोर्सेसको कुरा गर्ने हो भने अघि नै कुरा गरेको स्नो लेपर्डको राइनोको जति रिसोर्सेसहरू जुट्छ त्यति चाहिँ आउलको लागि चाहिँ रिसोर्सेसहरू पाउन एकदमै गाह्रो छ त्यो नेपालमा मात्रै हैन ग्लोबली पनि त्यस्तो समस्या छ नेक्स्ट अब मैले तपाईलाई अलिकति अहिलेसम्म आउलको केही फिचरहरू भने त्यसपछि आउलको बारेमा चाहिँ कस्तो छ हाम्रो समाजमा चाहिँ के कुराहरू चुनौती छ भन्ने बारेमा तपाईलाई भने छोटो अब यसको फाइदा के छ त अब के फाइदा छ यो आउलको बारेमा किन कुरा गरेर होला जस्तो लाग्छ एउटा चाहिँ सबभन्दा ठुलो के छ भने हामीलाई चाहिँ अब खाजा मोमो मन परे जस्तो अथवा तपाईहरुको आफ्नो आफ्नो फरक होला रुचि अब लाटोकोसेरोको लागि सबभन्दा मनपर्ने बेस्ट खाना भनेको मुसा हो धेरै खान्छ मुसाको पपुलेसन पनि धेरै हुन्छ र मुसालाई खान्छ एउटा लाटोकोसेरोको फ्यामिली भन्ने चाहिँ भाले पोथी र बच्चाहरू फुलबाट निस्केर भालेपोती मिलेर ब्रिडिङ गरेर फुलबाट बच्चा निस्केर उड्ने बेलासम्म करिब 4 महिना जति लाग्छ यो 4 महिनाको अवधिमा एउटा लाटोकोसेरोको फ्यामिलीले 3000 वटासम्म मुसा खाएको रेकर्ड छ त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ यसले मुसाको संख्यालाई चाहिँ नियन्त्रण गर्छ र मुसाको संख्यालाई नियन्त्रण गर्दाखेरि हाम्रो खेतीपातीदेखि लिएर हाम्रो घरमा हुने नोक्सानलाई पनि जोगाउँछ त्यसैले यसलाई चाहिँ फार्मर्स फ्रेन्ड भन्छ एकदमै यसलाई किसानको साथी भन्छ यो चरालाई त्यो हिसाबले ठुलो महत्त्व छ यसको किसानलाई मात्रै हैन हामी अरूलाई पनि धेरै महत्त्व छ यदि लाटोकोसेरो नहुने भने रोडेन्टको अथवा मुसाको संख्या तीव्र रूपमा बढेर यसले चाहिँ प्रकृतिलाई पनि धेरै विनाश गर्न सक्थ्यो अर्को भनेको चाहिँ नेपालमा आउने पर्यटकहरू मध्ये करिब 8% पर्यटकहरू चरा हेर्न आउँछ लाटोकोसेरो हेर्न आउँछ जसले गर्दाखेरि हाम्रो इकोनोमिकली पनि हामीलाई फाइदा हुन्छ होटलमा बस्छ प्लेनमा आउँछ टुरिस्ट गाइडहरू लिएर जान्छ त्यसले गर्दा पनि यसले चाहिँ इकोनोमीमा चाहिँ सपोर्ट गरेर आउँछ र रिलिजियसली हेर्ने हो भने पनि हिन्दू धर्ममा गणेशको वाहन मुसा भने जस्तो लक्ष्मीको वाहन भनेको चढ्ने कुरा उनीहरू एक ठाउँबाट अर्को ठाउँमा जानु पर्यो भने प्रयोग गर्ने साधन हाम्रो अहिले चाहिँ मोटरसाइकल गाडी भने जस्तो लक्ष्मीको वाहन चाहिँ लाटोकोसेरो मानिन्छ त्यो हिसाबले धार्मिक हिसाबले पनि हिन्दू धर्ममा मात्रै हैन सबै धर्ममा चाहिँ लाटोकोसेरोलाई चाहिँ विशेष स्थान दिएको छ त्यो हिसाबले पनि यसको चाहिँ धार्मिक महत्त्व पनि छ र अर्को चाहिँ गभर्नमेन्टले यसलाई मार्नै पाउँदैन इलिगल हो हन्टिङ गर्नु ट्रेड गर्नु हो भनेपछि हामीले संरक्षण नगरी उपाय पनि छैन त्यसको र अर्को भनेको चाहिँ हामी जसरी बसिरहेछौँ हाम्रो जति राइट छ यो पृथ्वीमा त्यति नै बराबरको राइट चाहिँ यसको पनि छ, लाटोकोसेरोको पनि छ भन्ने हिसाबले चाहिँ एनिमल राइटको पोइन्ट अफ भ्यूबाट पनि यसको चाहिँ महत्त्व छ। मैले यहाँ केही कुराहरू मात्रै राखेँ, यसको थुप्रै अरू महत्त्वहरू पनि छ, त्यसलाई हामी पछि बिस्तारै कुरा गरौँला कुनै बेलामा त्यस्तो समय मिल्यो भने। तर यसको विशेष महत्त्व भनेको चाहिँ यसले रोडेन्टको पपुलेसनलाई रेगुलेट गर्छ, यसलाई चाहिँ नियन्त्रण गर्छ। त्यो नियन्त्रणले हाम्रो किसानदेखि लिएर हामीलाई एकदमै फाइदा गर्छ। यो ग्लोबली पनि फाइदा गरेको रेकर्डहरू छ। जस्तो दक्षिण अफ्रिकामा चाहिँ के भेटेको छ भने मान्छेले पेस्टिसाइड जुन चाहिँ किरा फट्याङ्ग्रा पर्यो, किरा फट्याङ्ग्रा आयो अथवा मुसाले खेतीपातीमा जुन नोक्सान गर्छ त्यसलाई जुन पेस्टिसाइड हाल्छ, यदि लाटोकोसेरोलाई मात्रै जोगाइदिने हो भने पेस्टिसाइडको अमाउन्ट जो उसले चाहिँ इन्भेस्ट गर्छ त्यसमा चाहिँ 90% चाहिँ कमी आएको देखाएको छ साउथ अफ्रिकामा गरेको रिसर्चले। युकेमा गरेको रिसर्चले के देखाउँछ भन्दाखेरि कुनै रात लाटोकोसेरो आएर खेतबारीमा कराइदियो भने मात्रै पनि 80% मुसाहरू पुवालबाट निस्किन डराउँछन् वा निस्किँदैनन् भन्ने छ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि पनि रोडेन्टको पपुलेसनको पोइन्ट अफ भ्यूबाट यसको चाहिँ एकदमै ठुलो महत्त्व छ। नेक्स्ट प्लिज। अब म तपाईँलाई अलिकति यसको यो महत्त्व भएपछि नेपालमा के काम भएको छ यो आउलको बारेमा भनेर अलिकति थोरै जानकारी गराउँछु। यो एकजना तपाईहरु जस्तै विद्यार्थीले 2008 मा बनाएको आर्ट हो। नेक्स्ट प्लिज। अब अलिकति टेक्निकल भएको हुनाले म त्यसमा जाँदिन। नेपालमा भएको एउटा काम के हो भने 2008-9 मा चाहिँ लाटोकोसेरोको आवाजलाई क्यासेटमा भर्ने र क्यासेटमा भरेपछि त्यो क्यासेट लगाएर लाटोकोसेरो पाउने ठाउँमा बजाइदिने र बजाएपछि यदि लाटोकोसेरो त्यहाँ छ भने हामीले क्यासेटमा बजाएको लाटोकोसेरो त्यहाँ छ भने त्यसले कल ब्याक गर्छ, त्यो पनि गराउँछ। त्यो भएपछि हामीलाई के थाहा हुने भयो भने त्यहाँ कुन स्पेसिस रहेछ र कतिवटा रहेछ भनेर थाहा हुन्छ। हो त्यस्तो काम चाहिँ हामीले मनाङ र मुस्ताङमा 2008 र 9 मा गरेका थियौँ। यसलाई चाहिँ कल काउन्ट मेथड भन्छ। यो तपाईँलाई भोलि पर्सि तपाईँ चाहिँ यही साइन्स पढेर अलिकति ब्याचलर लेभलमा पुग्नुभयो भने यो मेथडको बारेमा तपाईँले थाहा पाउनुहुन्छ। कल काउन्ट भनेको हामीले कल बजाइदिने र त्यो चरा त्यहाँ छ भने त्यसले कल ब्याक गर्छ अनि हामीलाई थाहा हुन्छ ए यो चरा रहेछ भनेर। त्यस्तो काम भएको थियो 2008-9 मा चाहिँ मनाङ र मुस्ताङमा। नेक्स्ट। त्यसपछि आएर तपाईँहरू जस्तै विद्यार्थीलाई मैले पहिलोचोटि हो तपाईँहरू जस्तो विद्यार्थीलाई काठमाडौँमा क्लास लिएको, नभए हामी चाहिँ एकदमै करिब 33वटा जिल्लामा गएर अहिलेसम्म 19,670 विद्यार्थीलाई चाहिँ प्रत्यक्ष भेटेर लाटोकोसेरोको अवेर गराएका छौँ। हामीले मनाङदेखि मुस्ताङदेखि लिएर चितवन नवलपरासीदेखि लिएर कैलाली कञ्चनपुरदेखि लिएर इलामदेखि लिएर सबै ठाउँहरूमा गएर चाहिँ धेरै ठाउँमा चाहिँ गराएका छौँ 2009 देखि 20 सम्म। यो बेलामा हामीले विद्यार्थीलाई यसको फाइदाको बारेमा र विद्यार्थीको रोलको बारेमा चाहिँ कुराकानी गर्छौँ हामीले। नेक्स्ट। र त्यस्तै गरेर हामीले चाहिँ पब्लिकको लागि पनि, अब यो त विद्यार्थीको लागि भयो, यो पब्लिकको लागि पनि हामीले चाहिँ लाटोकोसेरो उत्सव लगायत अन्य माध्यमबाट चाहिँ ल है लाटोकोसेरोलाई मार्नु हुँदैन, यसले खेतीपातीलाई जोगाउँछ, राख्नु गर्छ, यसलाई जोगाउनुहोस् नमार्नुहोस् भनेर हामीले चाहिँ त्यसको बारेमा पनि एवेरनेस क्याम्पहरू चाहिँ करिब 24वटा जिल्लामा गरेका छौँ। 30,000 मान्छेलाई भेटेर त्यसको बारेमा चाहिँ कुरा गरेको छ। यो चाहिँ सिग्लेसको हो। यो बेलामा ज्याक पनि हामीसँग हुनुहुन्छ, ज्याक पनि जानुभएको थियो यो आउल फेस्टिभलमा। Jack, I think you can understand Nepali a little bit because you are almost Nepali now. यो ज्याक पनि जानुभएको थियो। यो बेलामा यस्तै यस्तै खालको कार्यक्रम गरेर हामीले चाहिँ पब्लिकलाई पनि अवेर गराएका छौँ। नेक्स्ट। र त्यस्तै गरेर चाहिँ मैले अहिले कुरा गरेँ आउल फेस्टिभल भनेर चाहिँ नेपालमा तपाईँलाई थाहा छ कि छैन। विभिन्न फेस्टिभल जस्तै आउल फेस्टिभल पनि हुन्छ। 9 वर्ष भयो लगातार आउल फेस्टिभल भएको। विभिन्न जिल्लामा गएर हामीले दुर्गम ठाउँमा गएर फेस्टिभल गर्छौँ। त्यसमा विद्यार्थी हाम्रो टार्गेट हुन्छ। विद्यार्थीहरूलाई हामीले चाहिँ अवेर गराउँछौँ। त्यहाँ म्युजियम स्थापना गर्छौँ लाटोकोसेरोको। त्यहाँ चाहिँ कन्जर्भेसनको बारेमा कुराहरू गर्छौँ, कल्चरको बारेमा त्यहाँ लोप भएको पुरानो नाचहरू गीतहरूलाई हामीले चाहिँ बचाउन खोज्छौँ। र त्यहाँ पुरानो खेलहरू हाम्रो हजुरबा हाम्रो बाजेहरूले खेल्ने खेलहरू जुन लोप भइसक्यो र जुन लोप हुने क्रममा छ त्यसलाई चाहिँ रिभाइभ गराउँछौँ हामीले। र त्यो चाहिँ 2 दिनसम्मको चाहिँ कार्यक्रम हुन्छ। हजारौँ मान्छेहरू आउनुहुन्छ। यो चाहिँ अहिले लकडाउनले गर्दाखेरि, कोरोना भाइरसले गर्दाखेरि पोहोर पनि हुन पाएन र यसपालि पनि हुन पाएन। यो चाहिँ हाम्रो फेब्रुअरीमा फर्स्ट विकमा हुन्छ। तपाईँले पनि त्यस्तो खालको थाहा पाउनुभयो र तपाईँहरू पनि शैक्षिक भ्रमणको रूपमा पनि आउन सक्नुहुन्छ। विद्यार्थीहरू धेरै ठाउँबाट चाहिँ आउल फेस्टिभल हेर्ने भनेर पनि आउनुहुन्छ। नेक्स्ट। र अर्को हामीले चाहिँ अघि मैले तपाईँलाई चोरी सिकारीको कुरो, ट्रेडको कुरा गरेँ। यसको शिकार पनि हुन्छ, यसको व्यापार पनि हुन्छ। जो फोटोमा देखाएको दिदी चाहिँ कपिल वस्तुको दिदी हो। उहाँले 2टा केजमा चाहिँ लाटोकोसेरो लिनु भएको छ, बेच्नको लागि जाँदै हुनुहुन्थ्यो। यसरी चाहिँ यसलाई चाहिँ बेच्ने, अरू चराहरू बेचे जस्तो, अरू जनावर बेचे जस्तो बेच्ने यसको व्यापार चाहिँ नेपालमा पनि र बाहिर पनि हुने गर्छ। नेक्स्ट। अब यसको चाहिँ मार्ने चाहिँ नेपालमा विभिन्न तरिकाले मार्छ। कोही भर्याङ लिएर गएर बच्चाहरू निकालेर ल्याउने, कोही चाहिँ घोचोमा चुच्चो बनाएर त्यसले कोपेर मार्ने, कोही जाली थापिदिने, कसैले रुखबाट टोड्कोबाट निकाल्ने, कसैले गुलेलीले हान्ने, कसैले लखेट्ने। पश्चिम नेपालतिर कालीकोट जाजरकोटतिर जानुभयो भने मान्छेहरूले लखेटेर लाटोकोसेरो समातेको भेटेका छौँ हामीले। यो विभिन्न तरिकाले चाहिँ नेपालमा लाटोकोसेरोहरू समाएर मार्ने गरिन्छ। नेक्स्ट।
राजुजी, हजुरलाई
हजुर
टाइम इज ओभर।
हजुर
अब र्यापिङ गर्नुपर्छ है।
ओके नेक्स्ट प्लिज। यो फोटो मात्रै हो, यसमा मैले तपाईँलाई चाहिँ फोटो देखाएको यो कसरी हन्टिङ हुन्छ भनेर। यो ट्रेडको हो, जहाँ जहाँ यो पोइन्टहरू देखाएको छ त्यो ठाउँबाट चाहिँ नेपालबाट चीन र भारतमा चाहिँ ट्रेड हुन्छ भनेर भने। नेक्स्ट प्लिज। यो रातो चिन्ह लगाएको चाहिँ यो बाटोबाट भएर चाहिँ व्यापार हुन्छ भनेर देखाउन मात्रै खोज्या हो। नेक्स्ट। यो फोटोहरू ट्रेड हुँदाखेरि हामीले खिचेको फोटोहरू हो ठाउँ ठाउँमा। नेक्स्ट। कन्जर्भेसन मेटेरियलहरू पनि हामीले बनाएर चाहिँ डिस्ट्रिब्युट गर्छौँ। नेक्स्ट। रेडियोबाट पनि हामीले आउलको बारेमा चाहिँ म्यासेजहरू डेलिभर गर्ने गर्छौँ। त्यसपछि आएर अर्को भनेको हामी नेक्स्ट प्लिज। अर्को भनेको यो अवार्डहरू पनि दिएर आउलमा काम गर्ने मान्छेहरूलाई चाहिँ अवार्ड दिएर पनि हामीले चाहिँ इन्करेज गर्छौँ। नेक्स्ट। गभर्मेन्टको केही इफोर्टहरू छ, म यसमा गइनँ। गभर्मेन्टको अलिक कम इफोर्ट छ, तर यसमा केही इफोर्टहरू चाहिँ गभर्मेन्टले पनि काम गरेको छ। मैले यसमा यो अन्तिम स्लाइडमा मलाई 1 मिनट दिनु होला। मैले खास चाहिँ अब तपाईँले के गर्ने भन्ने कुरामा अलिकति कतै घाइते लाटोकोसेरो भेट्नुभयो, कसैको घरमा भेट्नु भने प्लिज त्यसलाई चाहिँ एउटा कार्टुन बक्समा हालेर त्यसलाई बेलुकाको समयमा चाहिँ घरको छानामा गएर रिलिज गर्नु होला, आफै उडेर जान्छ। तपाईँले स्कुलमा चाहिँ फन्ड रेजहरू गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ प्रोग्रामको लागि। तपाईँले आउल फेस्टिभलमा इन्भल्भ हुन सक्नुहुन्छ। तपाईँले आज पाएको मेसेज चाहिँ आफ्नो साथीलाई दिन सक्नुहुन्छ। स्कुल एरियामा कुनै ठुलो खालको रुखहरू छ भने त्यसलाई राख्नु होला, त्यस्तोमा लाटोकोसेरोले गुण बनाएको हुनसक्छ। आर्टिफिसियल नेस्टहरू तपाईँले इन्स्टल गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ। यो त्यति महँगो पर्दैन, यो 3000 रुपियाँ नेपाली रुपियाँमा एउटा नेस्ट भन्छ। स्कुल एरियामा 4-5वटा नेस्ट राख्नुभयो भने त्यहाँ आउलहरू बस्न सक्छ। गुलेली प्रयोग नगर्नु होला यदि गर्नुहुन्छ भने। र तपाईँले आफ्नो विद्यालय र विद्यालय वरिपरि पनि प्लान्टेसन चाहिँ गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ, त्यसले चाहिँ आउलको हेबिटेट क्रिएट गर्छ। नेक्स्ट। थ्याङ्क यू। सरी मैले चाहिँ अलिकति मेरो प्राय 1-1.5 घन्टाको प्रेजेन्टेसन हुने जहाँ पनि त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ अलिकति डिटेलमा जान खोज्दाखेरि अलिकति पछाडिको म क्लियर गर्न पाइनँ। अब तपाईँहरूको केही छ क्वेसनहरू भने मेरोमा अडियो अलिकति समस्या भइरहेको छ, तपाईँले चाहिँ त्यो क्वेसन ड्रप गर्नु होला। त्यस्तो केही छ भने, अथवा छैन भने म सरलाई एउटा रिक्वेस्ट गर्छु नि पछि कुनै दिन मलाई चाहिँ करिब 1 घन्टाको समय दिनु होला, म विद्यार्थीहरूसँग बसेर अलिकति डिटेलमा यसको बारेमा चाहिँ कुराकानी गरौँला। थ्याङ्क यू भेरी मच।
Rajuji, हजुरलाई एउटा note before Sonakshi takes over. We have a lot to learn, and I feel that कतिपयजना स्कुलको principals, directors पनि हुनुहुन्छ, and they are absolutely fascinated by what is going on. So Rajujiलाई definitely will call you एउटा लामो 1-1.5 घण्टाको प्रेजेन्टेसनको लागि अनलाइन हामी गर्छौँ, and not just Triyog High School, काठमाडौँको 10-12 स्कुल मिलेरै हामी हजुरलाई बोलाउँछौँ, and we have a lot to learn from you. Thank you so much, and very sorry to interrupt your presentation just due to the lack of time.
Thank you, Mr. Acharya. It was a really fascinating and interesting presentation. Moving on, the next speaker of our event is Mr. Abhijit Sarkeel. Mr. Abhijit Sarkeel shares a deep passion for the natural world and the diverse indigenous culture of India's forest, desert, and mountain communities. He has nurtured and developed a valuable network of friends and associates in a wide number of specialized fields. Mr. Sarkeel strongly believes in the importance of conservation of habitat and landscapes and feels that through tourism, we need to promote a sense of communication and special connection between nature and people. I'd like to request a timer to set time conventions.
Thank you. Mr. Abhijit Sarkeel will have 3 to 5 minutes to give his speech. I will display the green card in 3 minutes, the yellow card in 4 minutes, and the red card in 5 minutes. He will have additional 30 seconds to 1 minute to complete his speech. Thank you, and over to you.
Hi, everyone. Can you see me and listen to me?
Yes, we can.
All right, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, all of you. It's always wonderful to speak to young minds. And I'm actually out of house, so apologies if there is a little bit of background sound. But what I wanted to do is to see if we can, if I can share my screen, because I've got some images from my travels that I wanted to show all of you. And the important thing that I would like to get across to all of you is to make sure that when you see the image from, the images are quite nice, they're of wild animals. But the important thing is another 30, 40, or maybe another 50 years, some of these animals possibly will not be there. So what we can do to save them, and what you can do at your school level or at your home to save them, is what we are going to talk about. Okay, so let's see if we can share the screen. Just maybe take a couple of minutes, but I'll carry on talking while I'm doing that, because that way, it will be okay to. I also think you have got my, Niladri, did you get the presentation? Yes, so it's easier from that way maybe. So here you see Kanchenjunga, which some of you might have seen in your lifetime, and I hope that all of you get to see the mountains, clear, pristine mountains. As you see, there is no trash anywhere. So the first thing that I wanted to harp on at your school level or at your home is that we all talk about plastic, plastic is one of the rubbish, one of the trash materials, but there are other things as well. From the cardboard to the packets to everything is actually rubbish. Nature does not need them. Nature takes a lot of time to recycle them. And even a simple banana peel takes not less than 7 to 10 days to recycle. And that too, if it is left in the right place. So whenever you are traveling, just keep in mind about this rubbish. Yeah, we can go to the next screen, please. So this is a snow leopard. A few of you might have seen it. Some of my presenters might have seen it, but it's not an easy animal to see, and it lives in a very fragile habitat. The biggest challenge for this animal to survive is the melting snow and the global warming. And the only way that we can sort of do something about it at a school or your personal level is by being conscious about the amount of electricity that you are consuming, because most of the electricity comes actually from coal. So, even solar batteries are powered by electrical devices which are heated or used or charged by coal. So, when you look at such a beautiful animal, you really want to make sure that your next generation can see it. And the only way that you can really guarantee that is by making sure that you are sort of being conscious about your carbon consumption, you are conscious about your electricity consumption, and so on. Next image, please. Well, who doesn't know what this is? Fantastic animal. Everybody in their lifetime should see this. But again, let me throw an interesting fact. About 100 years back, there were roughly 100,000 tigers in the Indian subcontinent alone, possibly more. There were a lot of tiger shoots that happened. There are various other ways that the tiger numbers have gone down. But right now, across the Indian subcontinent, we expect no more than 4,000 tigers at the most. And that's on the higher side. We do not know whether we'll be able to save it 50 years or 60 years down the line. But what can we do that we can maybe give it a few years, maybe 5 years or 6 years of additional life, by creating small micro forests in the cities, because tigers actually migrate from the forest to another forest, from one forest to another forest. And there are documentations that are showing that tigers have migrated for 70 kilometers, 80 kilometers, 230 kilometers, 400 kilometers. In that process, they are passing through cities. If the cities have a small micro habitats where a tiger can safely hide, it can cross the road when there is a highway or something, these tigers will be able to go from one place to the another. And so therefore, if you see a little bit of forest, a park, and you think it's not really that important, let's cut the trees, think again. Next one, please. So this is a real challenge, because the mega mammals are, they take more space, they need more habitat. And this mega mammal is a very important mammal that migrates from country to country. Between India, Nepal, Bhutan, there are elephants which are continuously migrating. And they are using ancient routes that they have used, for ages. So here, it is even more important to see where the roads are being constructed, where the schools, where the buildings, where the houses are being constructed. Is it in their path of migration? If yes, they should not be there. Difficult choices, difficult decisions, but some of you, who knows, might be involved in planning of conservation. No one knows. If you get into that, please keep in mind, these animals are gentle giants, and all they need is a path to migrate and a forest to live in. Next one, please. Now, this animal is a very interesting one. Leopard is possibly the most adaptable cat. To give you an example, it has got the widest distribution, meaning in the world, no matter where you go, in most of the places, if you're looking for a cat, the most likely cat that you're going to see is a leopard. Another interesting fact, in a city like Bombay in India, which is a very busy city, there's a very high density and number of leopards that live in the cities. The National Geographic has made a film on them. In Nepal, in various outskirts and urban, suburban areas, there are leopards. So basically, the animal is learning to survive with us, and it is requesting us to learn to survive with wild animals. Next one. So after all those cats, here is a canid. And canid means dogs, wild dogs. Wild dogs are very, very special animals. They are not related to the domesticated dog. They come from a completely separate genus. They have very interesting evolutionary pattern, and they are whistlers, meaning they can whistle. They are pack hunters. Now, what relation do we have with them in terms of micro levels? Here is a simple thing. We have domesticated dogs in all the cities. Domesticated dogs are great, and I value and respect all the dog lovers. But please do not take your dogs to the wilderness areas. The domesticated dogs have certain kinds of diseases like, which can very easily pass on to the wild dogs, and an entire population of wild animals and wild dogs can disappear. So when you are traveling, if you wish to carry your pets, just make sure that you are not carrying them into wilderness areas. Next one, please.
Abhijit, just a reminder that your time is up. Thank you.
Okay.
Kindly wrap up in a minute. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So here is one of the smallest cats, jungle cat. It is there everywhere. And again, before I wrap up, I'll just put it together that all these wild animals that you're watching, they are endangered, they are threatened by our actions. So the only way to really save them is to become conscious, is to act now, is to do something at your level, which can change their future. Because you really want to make sure that your next generation can see these wild cats and animals. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I believe Ms. Maya Gurung's technical problem has been resolved. So let's welcome her with her presentation.
Namaste. Sorry, ढिला भयो. Please मेरो presentation राखिदिनुस् न है. सदतजी तपाईं हुनुहुन्छ? Okay. मेरो introduction भइसकेको छ. मेरो introduction भइसकेको छ र अघि नै थाहा पाइहाल्नु भयो म माउन्टेनियर र अहिले चाहिँ हामीले 14 वटा पिक्स जुन अब वर्ल्डको सबैभन्दा अग्लो 14 वटा छ त्यो एसियामै छ र त्यो एसियाको हिमालहरूको 8000 भन्दा माथिको हिमालहरू सरसफाइ गर्ने अभियानमा हामी छौँ र नेक्स्ट जाउँ त र 8वटा हिमालहरू चाइना पाकिस्तान इन्डिया र नेपालमा छ नेपालमा चाहिँ तपाईको 5वटा 8वटा 8000 मिटरको पिकहरू छ भने 5वटा चाहिँ हाम्रो नेपालभित्र नै छ बाँकी चाहिँ बोर्डरहरूमा चाहिँ छ र हाम्रो टार्गेट भनेको 8000 मिटर भन्दा माथिको फोरहरू चाहिँ सरसफाइ गर्ने किनभने इन्क्लुडिङ माउन्ट एभरेस्ट हाम्रो चाहिँ अब संसारले चिनिएको देश हिमालको देश तर त्यहाँ हामीले हेर्ने हो भने अब पछिल्लो समय अब फोरहरू दिनदिनै बढ्दै गइरहेको छ किनभने तपाईको अब 1950s बाट सर मौरिस हर्जगले चाहिँ हाम्रो क्लाइम्बिङहरू चाहिँ सुरुवात गर्नु भएको थियो तर त्यो बेलादेखि हरेक वर्ष हजारौं क्लाइम्बरहरू ट्रेकर्सहरू चाहिँ अब माउन्टेनमा जाने र त्यहाँबाट फर्किने बेलामा चाहिँ उहाँले फोरहरू नल्याउने कारणले गर्दाखेरि हाम्रो हिमालहरू दिन प्रतिदिन चाहिँ फोर हुँदै गइरहेको छ भने अर्को चाहिँ क्लाइमेट चेन्जको कारण दुईटा कुराले एउटा क्लाइमेट चेन्ज भयो र अर्को चाहिँ इन्भाइरोमेन्टको कारणले गर्दाखेरि हाम्रो हिमालहरू दिन प्रतिदिन चाहिँ फोर हुँदै गइरहेको छ म तपाईलाई आज चाहिँ मेरो यो जर्नी एभरेस्टबाट सुरुवात गर्दैछु नेक्स्ट 2065 सालमा चाहिँ हामी 10 जना महिलाहरू थियौं 10 जना महिलाहरूले चाहिँ सगरमाथा चढ्ने डिसिजन गर्यो र डिसिजन गर्दाखेरि धेरै मान्छेहरूले ओ यो हिमाल त महिलाहरूको लागि होइन भनेर हामीलाई त्यतिखेर यो त चढ्नु हुँदैन भनेर भनेको थियो तर अब हामीले मानेनौं र हामीले आफ्नो डिसिजन अनुसार हामीले सगरमाथा चढ्ने निर्णय गर्यौं त्यतिखेर 10 जना महिलाहरूमा सुदूर पश्चिमबाट हुनुहुन्थ्यो तराईबाट हुनुहुन्थ्यो त्यसै गरी सिन्धुपाल्चोक दोलखा काठमाडौँ अनि त्यसै गरेर म गुरुङ महिलाबाट पहिलो महिला भएँ भने ब्राह्मण महिला त्यसै गरी क्षेत्री नेवार यसरी चाहिँ 6वटा जात जातिको थियो र हाम्रो टिमलाई चाहिँ त्यतिखेर महिला समावेशी इन्क्लुसिभ वुमेन टिम भनेर पनि चिनेको थियो र आज म तपाईहरुलाई प्रत्यक्ष म हिमालतिर लाँदैछु हाम्रो जर्नी 2008 मा एभरेस्टबाट भएको थियो र त्यही सिलसिलामा मैले चाहिँ जुन अनुभव गरेँ माउन्टेनको बारेमा माउन्टेन इन्भाइरोमेन्टको बारेमा क्लाइमेट चेन्जको बारेमा र त्यसलाई नै मैले एउटा इस्युको रूपमा चाहिँ मैले अगाडि बढाएको छु जुन यहाँ तपाईले देखिरहनु भएको छ यो बेस क्याम्प हो राइट यो रातो जुन यो तल सबैभन्दा तल छ यो रातो यसलाई चाहिँ हामी बेस क्याम्प भन्छौँ यहाँ चाहिँ झन्डै तपाईको 5300 मिटरको उचाइमा छ र हामी काठमाडौँबाट सिधा फ्लाइ गरेर चाहिँ लुग्ला ल्यान्ड हुन्छौँ लुग्लाबाट चाहिँ ट्रेक गर्दै बेस क्याम्प पुग्छौँ र बेस क्याम्प पुगिसकेपछि 1-2 दिन हामी त्यो ठाउँमा रेस्ट गरेर त्यसपछि चाहिँ हामी यो खुम्बु आइसफल हुँदै उकालो चढ्छौँ यो चाहिँ नेपाल साइडको पिक्चर हो हामी कहाँ चाहिँ जम्मा दुईटा साइड छ एउटा तिब्बत साइड एउटा नेपाल साइड अनि धेरै मान्छेहरूले चाहिँ यो नेपाल साइड प्रयोग गर्छन् र यो जुन खुम्बु आइसफल देख्नु भएको छ यो चाहिँ एकदमै टेक्निकल डेन्जर मानिन्छ नेपाल साइडबाट र यो क्याम्प 1 यो बेस क्याम्प पछि चाहिँ जम्मा 4वटा क्याम्पहरू छ क्याम्प 1 क्याम्प 2 क्याम्प 3 क्याम्प 4 भनेपछि जुन अहिले हामीले सरसफाइको कुरा गरिरहेछौँ जुन क्लाइमेट चेन्जको कुराहरू गरिरहेछौँ यो चाहिँ प्रत्यक्ष हामीले देखेको भोगेको कारणले गर्दाखेरि मलाई लाग्छ आजको यो जुन टपिक छ त्यो तपाईहरुको लागि असाध्यै महत्त्वपूर्ण हुन्छ जस्तो मलाई लागेको छ र पहिलोचोटि बेस क्याम्प पुग्यो बेस क्याम्पमा असाध्यै राम्रो सफा अनि त्यसपछि त्यहाँ अब टोयलेटहरू पनि थियो र 1-2 दिन हामी त्यहाँ रेस्ट गरिसकेपछि यो खुम्बु आइसफल हुँदै हामी चाहिँ क्याम्प 1 मा पुग्छौँ र म क्याम्प 1 मा पुग्दाखेरि चाहिँ मलाई एकदमै थाकेको थिएँ अनि त्यतिखेर म चाहिँ एकदमै भोक पनि लागेको थियो अनि त्यतिखेर मैले मेरो गाइडलाई भने मलाई एकदमै प्यास लागेको छ भनेर भन्दाखेरि उहाँले चाहिँ जो तिमी गएर चाहिँ त्यहाँ फ्रेस आइस लिएर आऊ भनेर भन्नुभयो र फ्रेस आइस खोज्नलाई चाहिँ म यो आफ्नो टेन्टबाट बाहिर गएँ अनि जब म त्यो आइस खोज्न जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ त्यो आइस मैले भेटिएन त्यहाँ चाहिँ दिशा मात्रै भेटियो भनेपछि म त्यो दिन मैले पानी खाएन र म बेस क्याम्प फर्केँ र हाम्रो चाहिँ के हुन्छ जति माथि गयो हाम्रो बडीलाई चाहिँ एक्लोमेटाइज गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ त्यो एल्टिट्युडमा चाहिँ हामी त्यो एडजस्ट गराउनको लागि तल माथि गरिरहनु पर्ने हुन्छ त्यही भएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ बेस क्याम्प फर्क्यौँ त्यसपछि अर्को दिन क्याम्प 2 पुग्यो क्याम्प 2 मा पनि त्यस्तै समस्याहरू थियो त्यहाँ पनि टोयलेटहरू थिएन अनि ठ्याक्कै क्याम्प 2 को साइडमा चाहिँ एउटा क्रिवास थियो। त्यो क्रिवासमा सबैले त्यहीँ गएर दिशाहरू गर्ने, त्यसपछि आएर दिशा गर्ने र जति भएको फोरहरू छ सबै त्यही क्रिवासमा फ्याँक्ने काम चाहिँ गर्दो रहेछ। त्यसपछि फेरि हामी बेस क्याम्प फर्क्यौँ। बेस क्याम्पबाट फेरि क्याम्प 3 हुँदै यो चाहिँ तपाईँले देखिरहनु भएको छ, यो क्याम्प 3 हो। यो एभरेस्टको यति लेफ्ट साइडको चुचुरो एभरेस्ट हो भने यो मिडलको छ, यो 4th हाइएस्ट माउन्टेन, यसलाई लोसे भनिन्छ। अनि क्याम्प 3 हुँदै क्याम्प 4, क्याम्प 4 अलमोस्ट 8000 मिटरको हो। त्यहाँ त्यसलाई चाहिँ हामी डेड जोन पनि भन्छौँ। र त्यहाँ पुगिसकेपछि चाहिँ तपाईँ आफूलाई फिल एकदम प्राउड फिल पनि गर्नुहुन्छ। र त्यहाँ गइसकेपछि सबै हिमालहरू सानो सानो देखिन्छ। अनि रातिको समय चाहिँ हामी हिमाल चढ्छौँ। अनि माथि हिमाल चढ्ने बेलामा चाहिँ धेरै पुरानो रोपहरू चाहिँ त्यहाँ हामीले देख्यौँ। अनि पुरानो रोपहरूमा कुनै भनौँ न यदि हामीले चिनेनौँ त्यो नयाँ रोप त ठिकै छ, यदि पुरानो रोपमा चाहिँ हामीले फिक्स गऱ्यो भने हामी एक्सिडेन्ट दुर्घटनाहरू हुन सक्छौँ। र यो जाने क्रममा चाहिँ मैले 2टा डेड बडीहरू देखेँ। एउटा चाहिँ फ्रेस थियो, अर्को चाहिँ धेरै पुरानो लास थियो। र त्यसलाई क्रस गरेर चाहिँ हामीले समिट गऱ्यौँ। र हामी 10 जना गएको थियौँ, 10 जना चाहिँ चुचुरोमा पुग्यौँ। नेक्स्ट। र तपाईँले देख्नुभयो चुचुरोमा पुगेपछि त असाध्यै अब भनौँ न अब धेरै मेहनतले त्यो ठाउँमा पुगेको हुन्छ। एकदमै आनन्द हुन्छ, एकदमै प्राउड हुन्छ, आफूलाई एक किसिमको गर्व महसुस पनि हुन्छ। तर त्यो सँगसँगै जुन तपाईँले यो समिट यो चुचुरोबाट देखेको भ्यू हो, एकदमै राम्रो भ्यू देखिन्छ नेपाल साइड र टिबेट साइड दुवै ठाउँमा। तर त्यो हुँदा हुँदै त्यहाँ गइसकेपछि प्राउड हुने, अब भनौँ न आफ्नो रेकर्डहरू पनि राख्यौँ हामीले। तर त्यो सँगसँगै हामीलाई के लाग्यो भने हिमाल त एउटा गड हो, मदर गड भनेर चाहिँ पूजा गरिन्छ। हामी कुनै पनि हिमाल चढ्नुभन्दा अगाडि पूजा गरेर चढिन्छ। र त्यहाँ पुग्दाखेरि हरेक स्टेपमा चाहिँ हामीले 4 देख्यौँ। र अहिले तपाईँले यो पिक्चरमा पनि देखिरहनु भएको छ, यो चाहिँ समिट हो। समिटकै छेउमा चाहिँ यो अक्सिजन सिलिन्डर हजुरले देखिरहनु भएको छ, साइडमा प्लेयर फ्ल्यागहरू छ। यसरी मान्छेले चाहिँ जताततै फोरहरू फ्याँक्ने कारणले गर्दाखेरि हाम्रो पछिल्लो पटक हिमालहरू चाहिँ एकदमै दूषित भएर गइरहेको छ। र अर्को कुरा चाहिँ कस्तो भने यही हिमालबाट बगेर गएको पानी चाहिँ हामी बेस क्याम्पमा बस्ने, झन्डै हामीले 2 महिना चाहिँ बेस क्याम्पमा बिताउँछौँ भनेपछि 2 महिना बेस क्याम्पमा बस्दाखेरि यही माथिबाट बगेको दिशा, पिसाब, टेन्ट, प्लास्टिक, त्यसपछि त्यो डेड बडीबाट आएको पानी चाहिँ हामीले खान्छौँ त्यो बेस क्याम्पमा बस्दा। र त्योभन्दा तल पनि धेरै बस्तीहरू छन्, त्यो बस्तीहरू छन् भनेपछि यो प्रत्येक हिमाल, किन विश्वको सबैभन्दा धेरै हिमाल हाम्रो देशमा छ र हाम्रो देशमा नै 4 छ। र एउटा अनुभव चाहिँ हामीले के गर्यौँ भने यो हिमाल चढ्दै जाँदाखेरि युरोपको हिमालहरू सफा छ, त्यसै गरेर नर्थ अमेरिका, साउथ अमेरिका, अन्टार्कटिकाको हिमालहरू सफा छ। त्यहाँ एउटा दिशाको छिटा पनि उनीहरूले पार्दैन, सबै दिशा पनि उनीहरूले फिर्ता ल्याउँछ। तर हाम्रो हिमालहरूमा चाहिँ तपाईँको एसियाभन्दा माथि चाहिँ दिशाहरू त्यतै छोड्ने, आफूले लगेको सामानहरू त्यतै छोड्ने, त्यस्तो खालको चाहिँ हामी त्यहाँ छ। यो नेक्स्ट भनेपछि मैले अघि नै भनिहाल्यो, हामी कहाँ अहिले पछिल्लो समय हजारौँ मानिसहरूले चाहिँ हिमाल चढ्ने यो एउटा अभियानै चलेको छ। अब 1950s मा मौरिस हजरले अन्नपूर्ण चढेर सुरुवात गरेको, अहिले 8वटै पिकहरू अनि 6000 मिटरको 1310वटा छ नेपाल सरकारले खोलेको पिकहरू छ। भनेपछि यो पिकहरू, यो ठुलो हिमालहरू चाहिँ असाध्यै फोहोरको रूपमा चाहिँ दिन प्रतिदिन हुँदै गइरहेको छ। र यसलाई चाहिँ कसरी न्यूनीकरण गर्ने, त्यहाँबाट फोहोरहरू कसरी ल्याउने भन्ने यो इस्युको रूपमा चाहिँ अहिले ठुलो बसको रूपमा चाहिँ हामीले लानुपर्छ भन्ने छ। फेरि अब नेपाल सरकारको त्यस्तो खालको कुनै रुल रेगुलेसनहरू पनि छैन, नभएको त होइन, तर पनि कस्तो भने नेपालको गभर्मेन्टको उपस्थिति नै त्यो ठाउँमा नभइसकेपछि मान्छेहरूले म एकजनाले फ्याँकेर के हुन्छ त भन्ने खालको त्यो सोचले गर्दाखेरि पनि फोहोरहरू चाहिँ थुपिँदै गइरहेको छ। हजुर नेक्स्ट। ल हामीले देख्ने यो फोहोर भयो, यो हिमालमा देखिने यो जुन इपी ग्यास भयो, त्यसपछि टेन्टहरू भयो, प्लास्टिक भयो, टेन्ट, अनि यो मेटलहरू भयो, यो चाहिँ हामीले देख्न सकिन्छ। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। यो पुरानो रोपहरू, यो धेरै रोपहरू हुन्छ र यो चाहिँ हामीले चिनेर मात्रै युज गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ माउन्टेनमा। हजुर नेक्स्ट। यो दिशाहरू भयो त्यहाँ आफूले दिशा गरिसकेपछि त्यही राखिदिन्छन् अनि हाम्रो त्यहाँ जति पनि हाम्रो गाइडहरूले भन्ने गर्नुहुन्छ यो त नेचर हो नेचरमा त लाज मान्नु पर्दैन जहाँ गरे पनि हुन्छ भन्ने हुन्छ तर त्यो होइन किनभने सबै चिजको व्यवस्थापन हुनुपर्छ त्यो चाहिँ फिर्ता ल्याउनुपर्छ यदि हामीले चाहिँ त्यही दिशा यदि हामी चाहिँ अब हाम्रो जति पनि माउन्टेनहरू छ सबै यो चाहिँ बिगेस्ट वाटर सोर्स हो र त्यहाँबाट बगेको पानी हामीले खाने हो भनेपछि हिमाल कुनै पनि पानी आउने ठाउँहरूमा चाहिँ हामीले फोहोर गर्नु हुँदैन हजुर नेक्स्ट नेक्स्ट यो डेड बडीहरू हो हजुर अर्को स्लाइडमा र जति पनि फोहोरहरू हुन्छ तपाईको एक्सपिडिसनहरू सिधिसकेपछि आफ्नो जति पनि क्लाइम्बिङहरू गरिसकेपछि चाहिँ मान्छेहरूले सबै फोहोरहरू चाहिँ यस्तो क्रिवासहरूमा फाल्ने चलन छ हजुर अर्को अर्को नेक्स्ट नेक्स्ट यो सबै फोहोरको पिक्चरहरू हो र अहिले चाहिँ हामीले यो इनिसिएसन किन लिएको भन्दाखेरि मैले 2008 मा एभरेस्ट चढेँ त्यसपछि मलाई यो हिमाल चाहिँ सफा गर्नुपर्छ किनभने यो त हाम्रो प्राइड हो हामीले नाम यही हिमालबाट पाउँछौँ हाम्रो देशलाई चिनाउने हिमाल हो भनेपछि यसको सरसफाइ हुनुपर्छ यसले त फेरि प्रत्यक्ष मान्छेको जीवनसँग गाँसिएको हुनाले चाहिँ अब यसको चाहिँ हामीले सकेसम्म सबैमा यो एक किसिमको यो क्याम्पेनै सुरुवात गर्नुपर्छ भनेर हामी चाहिँ एकदम अनुभवी क्लाइम्बरहरू विशेष गरेर त्यो हाई अल्टिट्युडमा काम गर्ने एक्सपिरियन्सवाला माउन्टेनरहरूसँग मिलेर चाहिँ अब 14 पिकको पनि 8000 मिटर भन्दा माथिको हिमालहरू सरसफाइ गर्ने किनभने त्योभन्दा तल तल चाहिँ जति पनि भनौँ लास्ट इयर पनि नेपाल गभर्मेन्टले अर्गनाइज गरेको थियो एभरेस्ट बेस क्याम्प एभरेस्ट क्लिनअप क्याम्पेन अब धेरै अर्गनाइजेसनहरूले नेपाल इभन नेपाल गभर्मेन्टहरूले पनि गरिरहेको हुन्छ बेला बेलामा तर त्यो चाहिँ तल तलमा त भइरहेको छ 8000 मिटर भन्दा माथि चाहिँ गर्न सकेको छैन त्यो गर्न नसक्नुको एउटा कारण के हो भने चाहिँ एउटा चाहिँ अल्टिट्युडको प्रब्लमले गर्दा हो अनि अर्को चाहिँ त्यो ठाउँमा अनुभवी मान्छे मात्रै जान सक्छ जो पाए उही जान सक्दैन त्यो कारणले गर्दाखेरि 8000 मिटर भन्दा माथिको जति पनि हिमालहरू छ त्यो चाहिँ सबै फोहोर छन् हजुर नेक्स्ट र हाम्रो उद्देश्य नै त्यही हो अघि हामीले देखाएको त्यो फोटोहरू अनि त्यसपछि हामीले देखाएको त्यो डेड बडी त्यसपछि आएको त्यो के अरे रोप अनि त्यसपछि जति पनि फोहोर छ समिटबाट नै सरसफाइ गर्ने र त्यो सरसफाइ चाहिँ त्यो सरसफाइलाई चाहिँ व्यवस्थापन गर्ने र अर्को चाहिँ यो एउटा व्यक्ति एउटा संस्थाले अर्गनाइज गरेर हुँदैन एउटा अभियान एउटा प्रोग्राम चलाएर हुँदैन यो चाहिँ सबैबाट इनिसिएसन लिनु आई मिन सबैजना मिलेर गर्नुपर्छ नेपालको सरकारले इनिसिएसन लिनुपर्छ र उहाँसँग अब एउटा नियम पनि हुनु पर्यो जस्तै हामी माउन्ट डेनाली हिमाल चढ्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यहाँ एउटा एकदम भेटरन क्लाइम्बरलाई चाहिँ डाइरिया भयो हिमाल चढ्दा चढ्दै उहाँलाई चाहिँ डाइरिया भइसकेपछि उहाँले त्यहाँ चाहिँ पुप ब्याग दिन्छ अनि त्यो दिशाको ब्यागमा चाहिँ उहाँले त्यो डाइरिया भएपछि त्यो सबै त्यसमा जान सकेन अनि त्यो दिशाको छिट्टा चाहिँ आइसमा पर्यो अनि आइसमा परेपछि त्यहाँको नेसनल पार्कको रेन्जरहरूले उहाँलाई चाहिँ 10 इयर्सको लागि चाहिँ त्यो ठाउँमा आउनलाई दिएको थिएन त्यो पनिस गरेको थियो भनेपछि त्यस्तो खालको पनिसमेन्टहरू पनि हाम्रो हिमालहरूमा राख्नु पर्यो नेपाल सरकारले त्यसको पनि एउटा नीति नियमहरू बनाउनु पर्यो र यस सम्बन्धी चाहिँ हामीले अब गभर्मेन्टसँग कुरा गर्ने त्यसपछि आएर इन्भाइरोमेन्ट अब हाम्रो प्लान चाहिँ अलिक के हो भने अब प्राइम मिनिस्टरसँग भेट्ने त्यसै गरेर आएर यता इन्भाइरोमेन्ट मिनिस्टर त्यसपछि आएर टुरिज्म त्यसपछि यो टुरिज्म रिलेटेड अर्गनाइजेसन उहाँहरूसँग मिलेर चाहिँ अब सँगसँगै कसरी चाहिँ हिमाल सफा गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने यो अभियानमा छौँ हामी नेक्स्ट
माइजी हजुरको टाइम लिमिट चाहिँ अब सक्नु लागेको छ 2 मिनेटमा हजुर सकाउनु पर्छ
र अब हामीले अलमोस्ट सिधिसकेका छ र अब हाम्रो अर्को प्लान एउटा गभर्मेन्टसँग काम भयो अर्को भनेको चाहिँ अब हामीले कन्जर्भेसन अफ माउन्टेन इन्भाइरोमेन्ट भनेर चाहिँ विभिन्न स्कुलहरूमा चाहिँ क्लबहरू माउन्टेन इको क्लब भनेर खोल्ने स्कुलमा माउन्टेन इको क्लब खोल्ने कम्युनिटिजहरूमा भयो त्यसै गरेर आएर युथ एन्ड वुमेन टिमहरू बनाएर चाहिँ अब हामीले यसलाई एजुकेसनको रूपमा अवेरनेस गराउने चाहिँ हाम्रो यो प्लान छ र यसले चाहिँ अब अहिले जुन तपाईँहरूले जुन इनिसिएसन लिइरहनु भएको छ यो असाध्यै राम्रो छ र यस्तै माध्यमबाट चाहिँ अब एकपटक हिमा सरसफाइ मात्रै गरेर भएन, तर यसलाई चाहिँ अब नेक्स्ट जेनेरेसनले इनिसिएसन लिएर सबै ठाउँमा अहिले त पछिल्लो पटक यो हाइकिङ ट्रेकिङ अब इन्टरनेसनल डोमेस्टिक धेरै बढेको छ भनेपछि हामीले यो वरिपरिको डाँडाहरू फोहोर्छ, आफ्नो घर वरिपरि पनि फोहोरहरू छ। हामीले हिमालको बारेमा मात्र नभएर हाम्रो वरिपरि पनि सरसफाइ राख्नको लागि चाहिँ यस्तो खालको अभियानहरू हामीले गर्नुपर्छ। र यो अब यो सँगसँगै अब यो क्लाइमेट चेन्ज भयो, त्यसपछि यो माउन्टेन इन्भाइरोमेन्ट जुन पनि यो छ, यो सबै हामीलाई चाहिँ प्रत्यक्ष अहिले हामीले महसुस हुने गरेर नै हामीलाई चाहिँ इफेक्ट गरिरहेको चाहिँ हामीले महसुस भइरहेको छ। सो यति नै हो मेरो प्रेजेन्टेसन। थ्याङ्क यू। र यो मौका दिनुभएकोमा त्रियुग स्कुललाई धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद। यदि तपाईँलाई यो मेरो प्रेजेन्टेसन चाहिएको खण्डमा म यो फरवर्ड गर्न सक्छु। थ्याङ्क यू सो मच।
It was indeed very fruitful for us to know about your journey and the first Nepali women's team to climb up these mountains. And we are all indeed very inspired by your work, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time. The final speaker of the day is Mr. Jack Kinross. Mr. Jack Kinross is a New Zealand-born conservationist currently based in West Nepal with a focus on developing and implementing strategies to improve human and big cat, especially leopard and tiger coexistence linkages, including countering wildlife crime. Can I request the timer to state the timing conventions, please?
Thank you. Mr. Jack Kinross will have 13 to 15 minutes to give his speech. At 13 minutes, I will display the green card. At 14 minutes, I will display the yellow card, and at 15 minutes, I will display the red card. He will have additional 30 seconds to 1 minute to complete his speech. Thank you, and over to you.
I'd like to hand over the virtual floor to Mr. Kinross.
Hi, everybody. Namaste. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak tonight. It's been really interesting to hear everybody's versions of what's going on. Sharad told things in a very direct way that we have some serious issues ahead of us with climate change and environmental degradation as a whole. But what I want to try and convey tonight in a very short time is a feeling of hope. I have great belief in the healing powers of nature, and the previous speakers have given some great examples of what we can do. And I guess what I want to do is just try and get people to think a little bit differently in so much as particularly with saving wildlife, and specifically in this case big cats, and even more specifically again the two species that here in Bardia National Park and in other parts of Nepal we're involved with, that's tiger and leopard. So conveying that feeling of hope is about the fact that we should be proud and determined to keep these big cats alive, which we've been managing to do so far in Nepal, in a world where many countries have lost their top predators. And as a lot of you probably know, next year it's almost certain that Nepal will celebrate a number of tigers in the country of around 250, which is double what was counted in 2010. And Nepal made a commitment, as did the other 13 tiger range states, to double their tiger numbers. In 2010, the census count was 121. So by 2022, the next year of the tiger, it starts on February the 1st, and I'll be referencing that during the slideshow. It's almost certain. I mean, we're very sure now that the number has been doubled. The current census has started. It started in Chitwan a couple of days ago and will start here in Bardia in a few days. So I'm just going to try and bring my PowerPoint up. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So the crux of my short talk tonight, and believe me, big cats and climate change is something someone could do a PhD on. It's a big subject because it's really relevant when you talk about the biodiversity crisis and top predators, because all around the world the tolerance for top predators is at a level which needs to be improved a lot. And here in Nepal, I would say we're doing an okay job based on the amount of tigers, the stabilization of the tiger population, but we're not doing such a good job with the leopard situation, which I'll come to more. So the solutions to this are very much about how we can improve our attitudes. And something that was quoted to me not so long ago about climate change was that the message is to be realistic. Yes, we have a problem, but yes, we can do our very best to deal with it. And once again, I do have hope. So when it comes to big cats and climate change, why and how we need wild animals such as tigers and leopards more than ever, because they're top predators, they're top of the food chain, and they're fundamental to the ecosystems that these animals survive in. I'm not going to go into the specific details of that tonight, but interesting enough, being asked to deliver this short talk, it came at a time as we were really starting to look at the relationship between big cats and climate change. And next year I'll be doing some work in the Annapurna, specifically on common leopard, because they are moving up into the mountains higher, and in actual fact, more and more the common leopard, or the forest leopard as I like to call it, is actually sharing space with the snow leopard. And this is a direct result of climate change. So I haven't got it on the screen here, but wildtiger.org, people will be able to follow the progress of that. And also we'll be publishing a lot more literature on the relationship between big cats and climate change. So yeah, I'm just hoping that in this very short time, I can just help you see big cats in a different light, more than just the fact that they're beautiful and the fact that they can be a great tourist draw and get people into the country, that they actually have a fundamental role on our planet and in our very being. So the fact that we've managed to double the tiger numbers and we have this very real raw relationship with leopards is a great thing. And honestly, I'm very hopeful about what we can do in Nepal. A few nights ago, I watched Nimsdai and his climbing of the 8,000 meter peaks. That's why it was lovely to hear Maya's take on everything as well. But Nimsdai climbing those mountains in under 7 months was an extraordinary feat. It was just so inspirational. And I think rather than always be focusing on the negative, we've got to look at the good things that are happening and draw inspiration from that, and as we move forward. So just a little bit about what we do in my organization. Firstly, we have been involved in leopard rehabilitation, and I'm often asked about some of the rewilding projects that I've been part of. And this particular cat that you can see in the image here, his name was Asa, and he and I went through an extraordinary experience in that we spent 18 months together. I raised him from a 1 month old, and then we lived up in the mountains in the Annapurna as I attempted to give him the opportunity to become a wild cat again, which he did. And I'm not going to go into the full story now, but as much as I was able to help him, Asa also gave me incredible perspectives as well. In fact, being able to see the world through his eyes, I guess, made me even more determined and more passionate to do what I do at a time when I already thought I was very determined. But Asa, in many ways, presented the problems because we were together and I was able to judge his actions and judge his behavior in ways that I'd never had the opportunity to do before. Speakers as well, and thank you for giving the opportunity. Okay, yeah, I got that. Okay. So another really important aspect of our work is helping to mitigate human-wildlife conflict. And here in Bardia, we've had a very difficult last 2 years, really since the beginning of 2019. This scene you can see in the image is in the west of the national park. The taller trees you can just see in the middle part of the background are the national park. In the foreground is buffer zone, and the hills you can just make out on the horizon are the Churi, and that is the northern boundary of the national park. Now, this tranquil scene you can see doesn't tell the full story. It's the river you can just make out there is called the Gerawa, and in the last 3 years we've lost quite a few people in that zone. They've been victims of fatal attacks by tiger, and it's something that we're doing our best to deal with. Many organisations working together, including NTNC, and along with several other NGOs in conjunction with the park. But I think where we can improve is where we can have far greater community engagement and have the community take ownership of this issue a lot more than perhaps has happened now. So the strategy we're using is kind of 3 tiers, and it's based on a disaster management protocols that are used for trying to prevent tragic events all around the world, and it's basic in what you can see here, but it's very detailed within those 3 elements. So the understanding of big cat behavior, both in general terms, which is what people such as myself can bring. We can bring a general overview of how tigers and leopards behave, needs to be combined with what's happening on the ground in these highly affected areas. And in the slide you just saw previously, it's mainly tiger, which has been problematic. The second part is strong human communication networks within those communities, and that's what we need to improve. We need to get people to be talking to each other much more in a way that so they can all be aware of what's happening with tiger and wildlife movement in the area. And one of the key elements that we bring into that is the third one you can see there, which is state-of-the-art technology enabling early warning systems and critical data. Now, this slide you can see here, which is actually on the front page of our website as well, was the start of where we started having some success with this, because I got this image while sitting in my office in Takudara here in Bardia, and it came from close to 1,300 meters in the mountains in the northern area of the park, where a leopard had killed a lady, exactly where you can see the situation now. We managed to put in equipment soon after, and the leopard that you can see there is most likely the leopard that was involved in it was involved in the unfortunate incident. So what happened was, at the time I was testing the system, the image came through within 10 seconds of being taken. I quickly called my assistant, and she put in a call to the people in that mountain area and say, hey, look, the leopard's in the area, please stay away from that particular zone. And what was really good was it created a really positive community response, and we haven't had any serious attacks in that area since implementing the system. Another aspect of our work, which is very much tied into coexistence and something we need to actually connect to coexistence a lot more, is the wildlife crime angle. And Nepal has done a particularly good job in reducing the number of tigers that have been poached and trafficked through the country. In fact, a lot of the skins or other body parts that have been seized in recent years in Nepal have actually come through from India, but there has been poaching incidents of tiger as well. And unfortunately with COVID, there was a lot more pressure on the protected areas that tiger mainly inhabits. So we have had some incidents in the last couple of years as well. Unfortunately, though, we do have a serious poaching and trafficking of leopard in this country and throughout South Asia as a whole. And I'm not going to go into the statistics tonight. Any people who follow my social media will know I've been giving that sort of information on those platforms. But once again, unfortunately, in the last 2 years, we've had a real spike. And the skins you can see here was one of the most recent seizures that was in Banke district, which is one of the hotspots very close to where I'm sitting now. But that's just an example of what's happening. And since the start of 2019, we've had 55 seizures of big cat body parts, and 45 of those have been of leopard. And what is really serious about those numbers is that that's just what we're catching. There's a rule of thumb that for every seizure that we can make, there's probably 4 to 5 that we didn't catch. So if you start doing the maths and doing some multiplication, you can see we've got a serious problem. And the problem itself tends to exist more in this area of West Nepal. And by West Nepal, I really mean sort of west of Kathmandu, although that's not strictly, how we term it on a provincial basis, but for the sake of this description, and Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand. And the interesting thing about that is not only do we have high poaching and trafficking of big cats through this area, but it's also the area where we have high human fatality as well. In fact, it's a global hotspot for the amount of people we lose in both attacks by tiger and leopard. And based on the information that we're starting to gather over, particularly over the last few years, and I've got colleagues in both those Indian states, as well as obviously here in Nepal, we're starting to really understand that the relationship we have with big cats in this area, there's a lot of improvement that needs to be done. And we're working on structures and practices as to how that can come about. And one of the issues is bringing in the climate change aspect to it. And the simple narrative that we're starting to use is that, look, these animals are the ecosystem engineers, they are the guardians of the forest, the grasslands, the mountains, the air we breathe, and the water we drink. And I'm sure everybody listening here tonight and watching, and I know the target audience is really for students 10 to 15 years old, but there's people a lot older than that in attendance. And so this is a message to everybody that I think we need to think of big cats not just in this kind of narrative that I mentioned before, that they're beautiful and they're wonderful and they can make us tourist dollars, but they are fundamental to our very existence. Now, Nepal and those Indian states that I mentioned sits in an incredibly important biodiversity zone. In actual fact, there's a demarcation line which is kind of the standard is that it's the Gandaki River splitting up the Eastern Himalayan and the Western Himalayan biodiversity zones, because there are a lot of differences, particularly in vegetation, between those two areas. But Nepal sits right in the middle of that, and its role and its importance for biodiversity cannot be overrated at all. And with the highest mountain chain in the world, the shrinking of glaciers, the pressure on biodiversity, and the rate of development, we're really sitting here in an incredibly important place. So what we all do now from this point is going to impact globally, and on a microcosm, South Asia as well, because we have the watersheds of some of the most important rivers in the world. And if India below us, south of us, isn't getting water, it can cause a huge humanitarian crisis. But at the moment, I think we have to look at it like, let's not say glass half full or glass half empty. Let's just be realistic and say, hey, there's still water in the glass. There's still water in the river. And we still have hope, and the ecosystems that we protect in and around these great, huge watersheds, which are the biggest in the world, it's vital that we do that. And big cats have a huge role with their conservation in that whole management.
Jack, I have to interrupt you. Your time is over. Please wrap up in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. So the last thing I'll quickly go through is that we all have different perceptions of big cats. And you can see there that all these different people that I've got there, the city dweller, the tourist, the conservationist, the developer, the villager, and unfortunately many of them are living in fear right now, have different perspectives. And we've got to kind of get past this romantic view and look at the raw reality. So we all have to come together in our perspective of big cats, and that's up to all of us. So who plays that role? We all do. And how do we do it? We all do it by understanding all the perceptions of big cats that all those parties I mentioned do, and bringing everyone onto the same page. I haven't got time to mention my good friend Prajwal and his brilliant science. He's a molecular scientist, a geneticist, and we'll be doing some great work together next year on the back of some brilliant work he's been doing. But he's another example of the brilliance that can happen in Nepal. So hats off to you, Prajwal. I know you're watching. And I'll just finish off by saying we've got brilliant people like Prajwal in this country, but everyone can be engaged in this. Citizen science has a huge role, as does community engagement, and the most important thing, which is education. And I can't say it enough. I've said it 3 times here, but I can't say it enough. And we've got to keep on educating ourselves and have hope. So yeah, be the change and see big cats in a new light.
Thank you, sir. Your presentation has been such a new look at how big cats and climate change are interrelated, and I'm sure we're all more aware of the threats to them. It's a great pleasure to have this conversation amongst us. All of the questions that were asked in the chat box today will be forwarded to the respective speakers through email and will be answered through email as well. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the chat box right now. As a token of appreciation, we would like to present a digital certificate to each one of our speakers for speaking at the TEDxTRIYOGH High School Countdown event. Thank you for all the speakers, Ms. Rachana Shah, Ms. Sanjivani Yonzhin Shrestha, Ms. Maya Gurung, Mr. Raju Acharya, Mr. Abhijit Sarkeel, and Mr. Jack Kinross. Let us all give our speakers a virtual round of applause. Now I would like to request our principal, Niladri Shekhar Parel, to please speak a few words.
Thank you, Sonakshi. What can I say? Such a beautiful evening of inspiration. Thank you so much, speakers, for coming to our program and highlighting the issues that have been at the forefront. Sometimes it gets hidden from our eyes and from our consciousness. Thank you for bringing the conversation to our minds. I think in the education ecosystem, we need more people and much more time. We know that you are busy and committed to your work, but we do need this input from your end, such sector experts, such inspirational speakers to come to us more often and speak to the young minds who will be the change makers of tomorrow. We learned how owls and big cats and mountain degradation can actually harm our environment and so much more. We highlighted the importance of vitamin N, and we saw how 500 schools are under the umbrella of the ecosystem network of Friends of the Zoo. This has been a presentation of TEDxTRIYOGH High School, empowered and supported by the Friends of the Zoo Club of Triyog High School. My appeal to all educators, directors, principals, teachers is we should have these conversations at our schools through the children that are going to be the change makers. Jack, we'd love to connect with Prajolji. Rajuji, once again, apologies for cutting your absolutely brilliant presentation short. We will connect with you. We will bring a larger group of schools together to hear from you in much depth and detail. Thank you all for being over here. Sonakshi, and thank you for the opportunity, Triyog High School, Friends of the Zoo Club. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Finally, I'd like to request our club secretary, Kamira Rao, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sonakshi. I am Kamira Rawal, Secretary of Triyog FOZ Club. It gives me great pleasure to propose a vote of thanks for this event. Predominantly, I would like to express my gratitude towards our speakers, Ms. Rachana Shah, Ms. Sanjivani Yonzhin Shrestha, Ms. Maya Gurung, Mr. Raju Acharya, Mr. Abhijit Sarkeel, and Mr. Jack Kinross for taking out their time and being with us today. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence. I'd also like to show appreciation to the entire school management for giving us such a wonderful opportunity to conduct this event. I'd also like to express my gratitude towards our principal, Mr. Niladri Shekhar Paryal, and club facilitator, Mr. Puskar Chaudhary, for their continuous support and dedication. I'd also like to thank all the members of the FOZ Club who have been constantly working to ensure this event becomes a success. My acknowledgement towards the technical team for their assistance throughout the program. I thank all the participants for their presence and collaboration in today's event. In conclusion, I would like to present my appreciation and thankfulness towards everyone for being with us today. Thank you, everyone. Now you can start leaving the meeting.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Som Chetriji, father of Sila Chetri out here, who's the school vice captain, for bringing in Jack Kinross and Raju Acharya, two incredible people who are working towards conservation efforts in Nepal. Som Chetriji, if you're here and listening to us, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate the work that you're doing in your own area, in your own capacity in helping the school in organizing such events. Thank you so much. It's been an incredible evening, and thank you, everybody. Have a pleasant evening. The executive members of the FOZ committee, kindly stay back. We'd like to talk to you. Thank you. I'd like to request the host to end recording.